to edition 93 of All Killa, No Filla podcast with me, Rachel Fairburn and Kiri Pritchard-McLean. Just before we start, we'll do our usual disclaimer. This isn't hero worship. We do this podcast because of mutual interest in serial killers. As long as we are doing this podcast, it stops us from writing to them in prison.
It sounded like you surprised yourself halfway through the disclaimer there, Rachel.
I did. I don't know. I sound a bit hoarse today. Not sure why. Maybe I was shocked at the gruffness of my own voice. Maybe my voice is breaking.
Oh, you messaged me the other day saying that you had a very weird dining experience.
Not weird, the worst dining experience I've ever fucking had in my life.
Sorry.
It's very fresh in my... This happened yesterday, right? So yesterday I had to go and do something that I didn't want to do, which is not a good start to the day for me. Of course, I was professional and happy throughout, but it's sometimes... You know, when throughout my life I've had jobs that I've hated, and because I love this job, it never feels like work. And then some days when you have to do stuff and it feels like work, I'm very, very cross about that. But that's by the by. I had to go and do something, I had a bit of a break. So I went out and I got some food. I went to the Japan Centre, which is near Leicester Square in London. I was like, oh, they've got a little restaurant here, that's nice, I'll pop in. So went to the door. They said, oh, it's just me. And I hate you when you have to go, yes, it's just me. Of course it's just fucking me. Sat me down, left me for over 10 minutes with the menu, whilst it wasn't even that busy. There was other people serving as well. While he brought other customers in, tended to them, and more or less arse-licked a big table of people, so he gets so it's like, okay, I've been here for like 40 minutes now, and you haven't even said, what do I want to drink? So I just walked out in a huff, which happens to me a lot. And I will say this, as a woman on your own, this happens to me quite frequently. It's like, sorry, am I fucking invisible, am I? You just get completely... And also, I will say this as well, and I'm not imagining this, because people go, oh, are you sure you're not being touchy? No. As a woman under average height, and as somebody who people assume is younger than they are, consistently, I get either treated like a child, ignored, pushed in front of, which I don't let happen, may I stress. And it's like a constant battle to go, excuse me, I was before you. Then, went out there, I was really wanting like some sort of Japanese food, went into Wasabi, not my favourite chain, but I thought I'll get some gyoza, got them, opened them, and they were like a fucking drowned man's dick. Inedible.
I was going to say, lovely.
Straight in the bin. I was like, I felt like dropping to my knees and screaming at the sky, I just want to eat. Thought I'll go somewhere reliable. Went to, what's it called, Leon.
Yeah.
I thought I'll get the Leon Love Burger, the vegan burger, which is very good.
So good.
Got that. Got myself a seat downstairs. I thought, here we go. Opened it up. Went to bite the burger. The entire vegan patty, tomato and lettuce fell off out of the burger and onto the table. Not even onto the wrapping, onto the table.
Man.
What did I do? I put it back on and I fucking ate it.
Good. I'm glad. Well, I think you've probably created a new strain of the virus. You're going to be the bat.
Oh, absolutely. But I just wanted to eat.
Yeah, there's nothing worse.
Oh, God.
I went for a lovely... I had a similar, food-induced rage the other day. I went for a very nice tasting menu, which is hard to get as a vegan.
Ooh.
In a place near me, and I won't name it. So it was 7 courses, and the thing with tasting menu is it's technical flair, right? So it's just loads of really impressive, thoughtful bits and interesting flavours, which it was. But I was we sat down at 7:15 and we didn't get our first course till 8:00. So I'm hungry, obviously, but it was all very lovely, but I'm oh God, I'm so fucking hungry. And then I think we finished eating after 10.
Oh, God.
And when they bring them out, it's something tiny. So I understand it takes a while to perfect something tiny and beautiful like that, but also I'm fucking hungry, mate. And so we were I was oh, let's get a Burger King on the way home. Because I'm disgusting. But then it got to after 10, I was fucking Burger King, shut. So then I was really annoyed. So I was you know what, we'll go, because I had a craving for fake chicken. So, but also I think KFC chips are wank. So I was let's go to KFC and then Mackey's and then home.
Yeah.
So I went to KFC and it's a new one in Bangor and it's fucking awful and the customer service is appalling. I went through the drive-through and then sort of paid and then he goes, right, you got to wait now because we've got a microwave and that. I was like, what, sorry?
Oh my God.
And he went, you got 5 minutes because you just got to throw it in the microwave and stuff. I was like, okay. And I was like openly laughing about how much he didn't give a shit, that he was just saying, I've just got to microwave your food for you.
Oh my God.
And I know, who do we think we are going to fast food and expecting it not to be microwaved? But give us a little razzle-dazzle, kid. We're openly laughing in the car, get the burger, drive away. I'm angry now because he's been sort of like shit at his job. I always forget how bad the KFC corn burger is. So then we drive to McDonald's and I was like, do you know what? There's a plant one, a McPlant. Let's have that. And I like McDonald's fries. Get in the drive-through. They take ages to respond to you while you're parked there. I hate that. And then they're like, yeah, because it's Bangor and the customer service is doggo. I was like, hi, could I have 2 McPlant meals, please? And they're like, no, we've not got them. I went, okay. I was like, have you got anything vegan? And they're like, no. I was like, right, okay. And so, like, pulled forward. I'm obviously fucking fuming now. And then they just were taking ages to cook the thing, so I'm just stuck in the drive-through for ages with no food. An empty belly because of...
I can't deal with this anymore. And I'm going to say this. And if anyone, because there's always these cunts that do this. Oh, well, actually, you should have spare a thought for the staff that work in these places. It's like, right, seriously, I am a person in the world who is entitled to be treated with a modicum of fucking respect, right? I'm sick of being sulked at. I'm sick of being barked at. I'm sick of being ignored. So I've been in a position where I've worked in customer service and I've just done the thing that I'm meant to do, right? But it's like some people, well, actually spare a thought for the staff that work in these places. Right, well, I would do if they weren't a fucking cunt to me. Right? Why should I spare a thought for a fucking 20-year-old who talks to me like I'm a cunt because I've asked for the thing that they're meant to sell, right? It's happening everywhere, right? There are so many fucking feckless people about who just want to sulk their way through the day. Like, I get it. You don't like your job, and I'm fucking fine about that. However, I am buying something. So don't be a cunt to me because I'm not your fucking problem. I just... Everything has got worse. Service is appalling in places. Absolutely appalling. You can't go anywhere without fucking tripping over someone's dog now either.
Oh, yeah. Do you know what? I hadn't... Again, this is a sort of like manifestation of privilege, but I've got a friend whose daughter is terrified of dogs. So she can't, like, get a haircut. She can't go in loads of shops because, like, everywhere's dog-friendly, which is, like, a beautiful thing if you're a dog owner. But if you've got a phobia of dogs...
Well, this is... What if you're allergic to dogs? What if you... This is what dogs... So, and again, if you've got a dog, don't write in and go, I have this dog and it hears from it. We're not talking about those dogs before you fucking start. We're talking about people just bringing...
Take that, deaf people listening to this.
No. Do you know what I mean, though? Because some cunt will do that. Because you can't... Now, when you're talking about something, someone will always chip in with, well, what about service dogs? I'm not talking about fucking service dogs. I'm talking about... Here's the example of what I'm talking about. I'm talking about when I went to Cornwall, and I went in a cafe to have my breakfast, and there's a dog in there that was fucking bigger than the people that owned it. And it's sitting in the aisle where people are trying to get through to go to the toilet. It's next to me at the table, and it's salivating at everyone's food, and they're going, ha 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 ha, he's hungry. Yeah, he's also a big dog that shouldn't be in here. Like, your dog means nothing to me. And I think we're becoming an absolute nation of chumps that people are sitting there smiling at dogs. It's creepy. It's just so obnoxious. Yeah, don't get me wrong, I do like dogs. Of course I like dogs. But it's just at the point now where it's like, well, I will take my dog where I want.
I remember when I worked... I must have told you this, when I worked in a bar in a caravan park. Yeah, so no one come at us about, like, actually people have to do shit jobs, because I promise you, between us, we've done them all.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking... Yeah, listen, if anyone starts on me about jobs... I've not been to college or university, so before you bollock me, check your fucking privilege. I've worked since I was 16, you cunt. I worked in a caravan park bar,
And I remember there was a woman who used to bring... There were no dogs allowed in the bar, and she would bring her King Charles Cavalier Spaniel in.
Oh, God.
And she had two of them, and they would sit with her, and she was like, legally, you can't ask us to move, because legally you're allowed to bring a King Charles Cavalier Spaniel into any indoor space. So, like, there's this weird quirk of, you know, like, some law from, like, the Magna Carta that means that these fucking dogs can go in anywhere.
You think he's right? Legally, by some mad law, you might not be able to. But the levels that you would have to go to take you to court to prove that would not be worth it. So take your dogs and fuck off.
Oh, here we go. I've just given it a Google.
Go on,
it's
what does
often
it
been
say?
stated that King Charles Spaniels and Cavalier King Charles Spaniels are the only breed of dog allowed entry into all public buildings due to an Act of Parliament passed by Charles II.
Oh,
this is
God.
completely untrue and has somehow become a bit of an urban myth. I'm
Brilliant.
not surprised that woman who would always sing "These Boots Are Made for Walking" on the karaoke
Oh, fucking hell.
is not a legal expert.
They're very prone to dementia, those dogs, because of inbreeding.
Really?
Yeah,
Like all-
interesting little fact for you. Same as Dalmatians are prone to deafness. Those I don't like I mean, obviously, you know, I like dogs, but as far as dog styles go, I'm not mad on those King Charles. You know why I don't like it? I don't like them because also these people that put nappies on their dogs when they're in heat. I saw one of them with a nappy on once because it was in heat, and I was just thought, can you fucking leave that dog at home?
Oh, isn't it to stop the blood going everywhere?
Yeah, but leave it at home. If it's fucking... The dog's on heat, it's wanting to get slammed, and it's being dragged round everywhere, and other dogs going, just leave the dog at home. Don't want to see it in its nappy.
I think anyone who menstruates should stay at home.
No, I'm talking about dogs, do you know what I mean? It's dogs, innit? It's just people who just... It's not very respectful to the animal either. So this is the thing, like... And this is my last point on dogs. Great, you've got a dog. Do you have a personality? No. But also... it's perfectly fine. If his dog's well behaved, whatever. But it's this, like, entitlement of... I will take my dog wherever I want, regardless of if the dog looks like it's comfortable or not. Because I've seen dogs in busy sort of city centres, in busy environments, and I'm thinking, that dog is stressed out, man.
Yeah.
It's not enjoying it.
Yeah.
Doesn't want to be in the centre of London.
Yeah.
But that's my last fucking point. Don't write into me because I don't care. It's just a point of view. That's all. Who are we doing?
We are doing Amelia Dyer, who is something we don't normally dabble in, a baby farmer.
Yes, we don't usually go for these ones, but we thought we wanted to do a woman. She was born Amelia Elizabeth Hobley in 1837 in Pyle Marsh in Bristol. Now, she murdered children, infants, over a 30-year period, which we should say as well, we have a trial going on at the moment, don't we, in the UK, of a nurse who is on trial for, murdering infants in her care. And it's very, very sad and very, very horrible. And I don't think the outcome's going to be very positive for her.
No.
So that's an interesting case that we're following at the moment.
Yeah.
Amelia was one of 5 children. She was the youngest. She had 3 brothers, Thomas, James, William, and a sister called Anne. All very modern sort of names for a... You could imagine a family with names of children like that now, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Amelia. Her parents were Samuel and Sarah. Samuel was a shoemaker. Amelia learned to read and write as well, which I guess was quite rare back in those times. She liked poetry and literature.
Can I say something? So I did a programme that's coming out soon about witches in Welsh history. And we went to the sort of like archive in Cardiff University Library, which is amazing. So they've got all these books about witches in there and guides to witches and books with spells in, all sorts. And I was saying, because in Welsh history, a witch is a completely different thing, basically, and it was sort of the English stereotypes now overtaken it. But what it was before was, it was like a quite a learned woman who understood about, she would sort of have all these spells and incantations and chants and prayers and things, like more like a soothsayer kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And they would say, I said, oh, well, yeah, because she must have been quite sort of revered because not many people read. And they were like, that's a common misconception. Actually, a lot more people could read than...
Okay.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I wonder what it is that we all just think everyone... Because if you think about it, that's when the print press came round, books were incredibly popular. They were very expensive, but they were very popular. So someone's reading something. And, you know, the Bible as well, right? Everyone had a copy of the Bible.
Yeah, I guess so. It's an interesting thing. Maybe, you know, I mean, the thing is, I mean, obviously I used to work in that rare books library, and... maybe we concentrated more on the medieval side of things than the Victorian side of things. So from that point of view, maybe that's why I just assume that most people couldn't read.
Yeah.
But obviously, with the printing press, that did change things.
Interesting.
But yeah,
just
maybe.
Interesting.
So here's something that brings us... most people probably had this. A mother had typhus, which I fucking hate the word. As diseases go, you just know it's not a good one when you hear typhus, don't you?
Yeah, well, I didn't know much about... I also know, like, typhoid. I know of it, but I didn't know what it meant. So long-term symptoms included hearing loss, seizures, meningitis. It's mad to have a side effect as another disease that's, like, hideous. Neurological decline as well, which is what happened to... Amelia's mother. She got very unwell and she was very sort of feeble. She needed basically a full-time carer in Amelia, because at the time typhus was quite common, and you would sort of care for people in the home because it spread by blood-sucking things. And there's 3 different strains of typhus, and they're all spread by different things. One by mosquitoes, one by fleas, and one by body lice. Ooh, which one do we have? Probably, depending on where you are. Where are they, Bristol? Well, they're near water, aren't they? All 3.
All 3, there you go. Her mother Amelia sort of cared for her mother. Probably because she was the youngest, wasn't she?
Yes.
She ended up caring for her mother, and after her mother's death, Amelia went to live with her aunt in Bristol and became an apprentice corset maker. It's very much a job of its time.
Yeah. Or the burlesque scene.
Oh, yeah.
With her mum, she was very close to her mum. This must have been so complicated. But her mum obviously was really struggling as a result of typhus and, you know, had bouts of violence and insanity. They think that
maybe I've got typhus. Maybe that's what's wrong with me.
Well, I think you just need a good square meal to calm you down.
Yeah, that's very true.
And they think that sort of double cross-referencing her symptoms, that actually she might have also had undiagnosed schizophrenia because of sort of some of the accounts of Amelia from that time, and typhus, which is like, just give her one. Do you know what I mean? Like, it feels like she's been through enough. Just don't, like, if you're going to have typhus, don't also get schizophrenia. Like, that's... and meningitis as a side effect. It just feels like some people, especially during this time, have it exceptionally hard. Yeah. So I think poor old Sarah, obviously, like as you say, passed away. That must have been a weird feeling as well, of when you care for someone who's quite difficult and you're watching them decline, or someone that you love suffer. I know I've had this with someone quite close to me, is that when that member of their family passes away, there's a weird sense of relief, but then that just brings loads of guilt as well. So basically, it's not an excuse, but it's no wonder that she was, Amelia was fucked up.
Yeah. And her father dies in 1859. Thomas, her brother, inherits the shoe business. There's no business like show business.
Oh, no, Rachel, go back to bed. Go back to bed.
Cannot help it. She actually became estranged from 2 of her brothers, and lived in lodgings in Bristol for a while. And then she meets a chap called George Thomas. There was a huge age gap between them. She was 24, he was 59, which at the time was would have been frowned upon. Now, he managed, when they got married, he took 11 years off his age and she added 6. Just, just to make it more respectable.
Your partner's younger than you,
Yes.
and my partner's slightly younger than me, but looks... I'm definitely the Judy to his Richard. Is it something... I mean, it's fine with you because you still look younger than your partner, but, like, are you worried about it ever, like, catching up and looking...
No.
I feel like I look like his mother.
Don't be so bloody ridiculous. You are talking absolute piffle. You don't look like his mother.
Maybe not his mother, but I think it could be
His great aunt.
Yes, exactly.
No,
he's
you
home
don't.
from university, and his big sister takes the youngest kid, who was obviously a mistake because there's like a 9-year age gap.
No,
is taking him to buy groceries.
You definitely do not look... You look the same age.
I don't know.
You do.
Maybe since he's been with me, he's aged loads because of the
No,
bullshit.
you definitely look the same age. Like, what's Tim? 5 years younger than me. It doesn't bother me in the slightest. I'll tell you what does bother me. People who ask me my age.
Oh yeah, is that still happening?
Happened to me last night.
Really?
Yeah. And I was like, I just find it offensive. Because I just feel you wouldn't ask a man how old he was.
No, you wouldn't.
Like, if you're a male comedian, you wouldn't say, how old are you? You wouldn't ask... when was the last time you asked a man how old he was? Nobody asked a man how old they are.
Was it another act?
Yeah.
Isn't it just because they're babies and they're like trying to work out how prodigious you are?
Nah, fuck them. But it's not just other acts that ask me, it's people in general that ask me. Although I did go to the doctors the other day, and the woman did say to me, oh, what's your date of birth? And I told her, and she went, I genuinely thought I had the wrong records up then.
Nice.
Because I was like, oh, yes, please.
I bet you said that to all the girls before you pop a speculum in them.
Yeah, keep it, gal, thank you. But yeah, I just find it weird, because I just find it such an old-fashioned thing to ask people, and I think people are so obsessed with women's age in particular, that when someone does ask how old someone is, I just think, why do you want to know? Why? What are you going to do with this information?
Yeah.
You certainly don't look older than your partner. You look...
I don't know.
To say, you look... Nobody's looking going, look at that old lady. Tim's 5 years younger than me, which makes me feel quite sick, actually, now I think about it.
What's the weirdest part of that age difference for you? Is it like when he was 10 and you were 15? Or is it like when he was 12 and you were 17? Like, or is it when he was 20 and you were 25?
I'd say probably... I think 21 and 16.
Yeah, that's a big leap, isn't it?
Because it is... I mean, things totally even out after a while. I think, you know, like I've got friends of all different ages and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, occasionally I get a bit sensitive about getting older, but then again you think, well, you can't help it. What's the alternative? You know, you can die or you can get older. I'd rather get older.
Yeah.
But it's, yeah.
Rachel, can I nip for a wee?
Absolutely.
2 seconds. Hello.
Hello. Where are we up to?
Talking about the age gap.
Oh, yeah. So, they get married. She then trains as a nurse. And as she's trained as a nurse, she meets a woman called Ellen Dane, who is a midwife. Now, Ellen has a very interesting way of earning more money and making an easy living, as she puts it. She used her home as lodgings for women who were having illegitimate children. Sorry. And it was like I was disgusted at the word illegitimate then, wasn't it? Now, what she did, she was farming off the babies. So the women were having the children. She was saying to probably wealthy individuals and couples, oh, do you want this baby? And people would buy the babies. And the women would pay for her services. She's like a really creepy agent in a way, isn't she? She's taking money to perform this sort of, in inverted commas, adoption and getting money from both sides. It's
yes,
unpleasant.
It's really interesting because this is this case, in fact, leads to regulation of adoption and fostering. But before that, it was an absolute Wild West. So Ellen sort of says, oh, I am supporting unwed mothers. but she wasn't. Because what would happen is, if you were a very poor woman and you had a child out of wedlock, you couldn't then, if you fell on even harder times, go to the workhouse, because you couldn't be in the workhouse if you suffered from immorality.
What?
Yes, so they were like...
Women couldn't win?
No, they literally couldn't. Yeah, they literally couldn't. So, and that, you know, that you could be pregnant by any means, and you would not be allowed in if you're, not married or widowed. So...
Or widowed?
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Oh, man. Anything else? But they wouldn't even let us in the fucking workhouse.
Yeah, so basically these very poor, impoverished women were like, can I give you a one-off payment for the baby? And then it means that they could they had a better fighting chance, and they thought, well, my child does as well. So they'd charge up to 80 quid to rich people for one of these babies, which at the time was a lot of money. And often they would, if they had very little amounts of money, they would pay weekly. Mm-hmm. But they usually avoided that because they just wanted the lump sum, because they had other ways of managing the children once they were in their care, which will sort of what we're mentioning, aren't we? But they also, sometimes these baby farmers would sort of perform rudimentary abortions because they were often trained as midwives. Certainly both Amelia was and Ellen was. And the reason why, actually, Amelia trained as a nurse and a midwife, because they were quite respectable professions at the time, is because she knew that George was much older than her and that he was going to die and would leave her facing the workhouse. So she was like, well, I'll always have something to fall back on. Like me when I started doing a psychology degree and then dropped out after a year and just went and did performance stuff anyway.
I still occasionally have a look at jobs, you know.
Oh, do you?
Just in case.
Yeah.
I like to keep keep knowing what's out there, just in case. I mean, the thing is, if people just paid invoices on time.
Oh my God!
So. This is how bad things are getting. You know, with invoices not being paid as someone who's self-employed. A plane went over the other day, and I just thought, look at that. They're people with jobs, and they get paid properly for them and on time. That's what that is. That's people enjoying their lives.
I'm still owed something from February.
Don't. Please don't. I honestly, I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
Don't get me started. I won't go into it.
Britain was the capital of baby farming, by the way.
Oh.
And it carried over.
It makes me so proud.
Rule Britannia. And they don't put that in the... You can't buy keyring with that on, can you, in London? And it was exported, if you like, around the place. But they think mainly from British people. They would also provide a wet nursing service, which is obviously when a woman who's lactating breastfeeds another woman's child. That must have been absolutely fucking rife for disease as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Can't imagine what's passed on through, like, breast milk in particular, because it's literally a bodily fluid being pumped into a child. So these basically kids didn't have a great start. It's amazing that anyone survived this period, basically.
Yeah, it is incredible, isn't it? To be honest, I always think sometimes, you know, you're alive now. Means you're the strongest of the line of people that you come from, isn't it? And I think, fucking hell, is this the best that we've got?
Yeah,
this weakling.
Do you know what that reminds me of? This really makes me cringe. Is when white ladies have T-shirts that are like, "We're the daughters of the witches that they didn't burn." And it's like, a lot of the witch trials started because bored white teenagers would accuse a local black woman of being a witch. So just being like a white lady with that T-shirt on is like, it just feels fucking gross to me, and be like, actually, other people survived because our ancestors accused them of witchcraft. Like, I don't know, I find it really cringe.
I'd love to do something like, you know, ancestry thing, me, to find out what my lot used to get up to. I just imagine crawling under spinning jennies and stuff like that.
I will definitely find out that my extreme guilt that leads me to doing lots of the things I do will be because that I come from a long lineage of slave owners or something like that.
Oh, you can actually there's a thing where you can just find that out.
Really?
Yeah, there's a website where you can just find it out.
What's that called? Find a Bastard?
It's some historical site. I can't remember what it's called.
Okay, go look that up.
Just so you know, my lot, nothing to feel bad about.
Great. You know, baby farmer became an insult. It was so, like, it was frowned on. But it was also referred to as, like, oh, they're a baby farmer if they were an adoption agency or ran a perfectly legit fostering thing, because we know that did happen. But they'd be like, yeah, watch out for her, she's a baby farmer. So it was used as sort of like an abusive term then as well. So they did have stigma attached to it.
We should say as well, Ellen, of course, said that she was running this adoption agency and helping these women. But that wasn't what was happening. She was allowing children to die because of neglect and malnutrition, and still taking the money off the women, the mothers that had had the babies. Yeah. To be honest, it sounds harder to do that than the thing that you claim that you are doing.
Yes, although... So this is a really horrible detail. So apparently when they sort of, like, raided... This is about Ellen's place, but a lot of these places... The things that would catch you when you caught that would sort of, like, you'd notice when you came in, because it's full of babies, right, is that it fucking stunk. So no one was clean and no one was cleaning these babies. And that it was quiet. Because the babies were malnourished. They stopped crying.
Ew.
And I just think that's really eerie to be in a room full of awake babies and they're all too weak to cry, is a really sort of chilling, stark... picture that it's painted.
Listen, as long as there's no dogs in there, I'm fine with it. We will get to something a bit later on, because there is a tonic, in inverted commas, that they do give the babies, which is not helpful, but we'll get to that a bit later on when we talk about Amelia.
Can I just say as well that maybe we're giving all baby farmers a bad reputation, because some of them were sort of like rich women would send their kids to nicer ones just so they would be there for a few months, and they would basically do the difficult stuff, the newborn stuff. They would do the breastfeeding, and the rich woman would be allowed to sort of recover from the birth and have a proper night's sleep. And I think it was slightly cheaper than having a live-in sort of like full-time wet nursing nanny. And they would have them until they were basically toddlers. Jane Austen was put in a baby farm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I have to say, I've just got no sympathy for rich people, past, present, or future, that do this kind of stuff. You fucking have a kid, just, look after the kid. I've got no sympathy for people who or respect, actually, for people who do that.
Yeah, you know what I think is now we understand more about trauma and how the brain develops and stuff like that. And this must have really created attachment issues with these children. So no wonder it was like a more violent, more sort of like ruthless, less... I don't mean civilised in a colonial way. I mean like just treating each other like shit. Because what is hundreds of incredibly damaged people wandering around. Also, no one's mental health problems are being treated. Like, all of this could just fuck off. This period of time in history, like, it's just awful, because they're like so close to nearly knowing things and, having like psychology being developed. But also at the same time, actual life for most people is so hard. It's no wonder they're all sort of low-key psychopaths.
So this is the thing. This is the reason why babies were quiet in these places. They'd given this thing called Godfrey's Cordial, or, as it was known, Mother's Friend. This is a medicine that was a sweet syrup that had laudanum in it. So they're giving the babies this stuff. Women who worked in industrial and agricultural jobs also gave their children this tonic, cordial, because that would allow them to work longer days if the child was off its nut out of it. A lot of children died of opium poisoning.
Jesus
because
Christ.
of this. It was actually still made and used as early as the 20th century.
Oh my God.
And then in 1908, it became a type 1 poison. So opium actually killed the children through starvation more than overdose. So the children went overdose on it. They were so out of it, they couldn't cry or get food. They couldn't cry to say, I'm hungry, so they starved to death.
Oh my God.
It's grim, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
so grim, so grim. But really, really horrible.
That's quite a long way for a child to go. Like starvation it could be a couple of weeks or maybe, a week. But the profit margin was in killing them quicker, because just having the bed there, with a child in it meant that they couldn't take another one. So Amelia basically sort of invents a more efficient, for want of a less gross word, way of being a baby farmer, who, by the way, in Sweden and Denmark were known as angel makers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think that's actually that's more creepy.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
Angel maker. That sounds like they knew they were murdering them.
Oh yeah, they're going into it with one sort of.
But they've made it sound more palatable.
Yeah, the last baby farmers to be executed was actually in Wales in 1907. So this was carrying on late. There was a good sort of like, probably 60, 70 years of this just happening and being sort of a profession.
Well, a lot of mothers who wanted to reclaim their children, they were often met with a lot of difficulties. Often the baby, there was silence. They wouldn't get back to the woman, they wouldn't write back. A lot of these women, because of the stigma at the time, were too ashamed to tell the police. And then often, when children were reported missing, they often couldn't be traced because there was no record of them.
Yeah.
People weren't saying where they'd gone to because they didn't really care, is the ultimate thing.
Yeah.
Scandalous.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how laws... You would think there would always be a law to be like, don't take babies and kill them. Yeah, but actually, sometimes something high profile has to happen for it to be introduced as law. So in 1872, they decided to regulate this completely, wild market that was going on. So in 1872, they introduced the Infant Life Protection Act. Now, they sort of had to put forward a case for a new law. So they got a coroner called Athelstan Braxton Hicks, who is son of Dr. John Braxton Hicks, who's we talk about in another episode as well. In fact, the next episode, which we very rarely record one ahead, but we recorded our Halloween special already. So, yeah, he gave evidence to basically put forward a set of guidelines about how you could keep children and what was your obligation. So he gave that in 1896. And then finally, in 1908, the Children's Act comes in, which says you can't keep kids in shitholes. It can't be dirty and unsanitary, or you can't have them kept with a neglectful nurse. And that phrase was deliberately targeting angel makers.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So, Amelia is inspired, though, by the friend that she had, and she decides she's going to do the same thing. Amelia actually has a daughter called Ellen. Now, in 1869, George, her husband, dies, and this is where she starts, well, what am I going to do? I'm a midwife, but I'm going to set up my own business, inspired by my friend who's done a runner to America. Now, she decided she was taking in pregnant women. She advertised that she would adopt babies in return for a one-off payment and adequate clothing. So the women had to bring the payment and some clothes, and that was the deal. Now, in 1872, she marries William Dyer. She says, I'm a respectable woman, I'm married, I've got children of my own, and she starts this business, which she does properly for a little bit, but then she's like, I cannot be bothered with this, I'm going to kill the children.
Yes. And she didn't want to starve the children because she was like, it takes too long and it's too sort of uncomfortable.
Ooh, all right, love, we're all busy.
So she decided that neglect was too slow a murder method. So what she would use is she would asphyxiate them using white dressmaker's tape. So almost as soon as they arrived, she would put it around their necks. Oh, God, this is so grim. And sort of dispatch them, often within the same day that they arrived, which is obviously very fucking horrible. By the way, she's doing this on the side of being a nurse. This is her, spare time second job selling the Avon.
This is her Juice Plus.
Which shows that nurses have always been fucking exploited and always had to, try and find other sources of income because the government doesn't respect them.
I've got to say, speaking of Juice Plus, the Juice Plus girl that I'm obsessed with on social media, she's getting married this week.
Oh my God, that'll be amazing.
Cannot wait. Can't fucking wait. Do you know what? I think it might be today. I cannot wait to see the pictures. Cannot wait. What a life I have. Sad fucking bastard.
Can't be today because she makes an 8-figure salary or whatever she says, and which means that she wouldn't pick Thursday because Thursday's a cheaper day to get married, isn't it? She would be on Saturday.
Well, she has gone abroad for it.
Really? Where's she gone?
And every day is Saturday when it's sunny. Which is definitely something she would say.
Where's she gone?
I'm not sure. She just put the aeroplane emoji.
Sure. Great.
and a wedding emoji.
Love it.
So they must have gone last night. And why do I even know this? Oh my God, you sad bastard. You sad bastard, Rachel. So, I've got here, in 1879, a doctor was suspicious.
That's it. Well, around this time, they're trying to crack down. So they've got, legal protection is moving forward. There's been case studies about what else to do to keep children safe. Now, the NSPCC was formed. God, that was everywhere when I was growing up. It really was the charity du jour when I was in school, the NSPCC. Don't hear about it as much now. Maybe it's because I don't have children or, but I just remember in school, maybe it was because it was quite a rough school, but there was always sort of like poster campaigns about the NSPCC and what they do and how they'd support you. Anyway, so that was formed in 1884, so around this time. Now, police were keeping an eye on Amelia Dyer because she was a well-known baby farmer, but her big error was she took a baby to a doctor and said, "Can you sign the death certificate?" And he was like, "Yeah, no worries, of course." And she was like, "Oh, they died of, whatever." And then she just brought one baby too many, Rachel. We've all done it.
Oh,
You bring one baby
always.
too many. And yeah, but genuinely, he was like, "Ha." And he sort of raised the alarm with the authorities. And so they investigated her based on the doctor sort of going, "Listen, there's something not right here." And they toyed with the idea of prosecuting her for manslaughter, but they thought that would be too hard to pin her on. And also, there was always a sort of willingness to disbelieve that women had committed crimes like that. So instead, they convicted her of child death by neglect. And she received 6 months hard labour in prison. But after that, apparently she was never the same. So she was sectioned several times after that. And her daughter, Mary Ann, who she'd had with William, was known as Polly. This is a very weird thing that happens, because it happens with one of Jack the Ripper's victims, is known as Polly. Is Mary Ann Nichols, right? Is known as Polly Nichols as well.
I think so, yeah.
But apparently that's because Mary Ann was a bit like Molly and Polly is a bit like Molly.
And then, obviously back then, they'd have a child that died and then they'd name the next child the same name as the one that had died.
God, so confusing.
Just pick a different name.
Yeah.
You're confusing me.
So Mary Ann, who she has in 1873, she has William in 1876. They nearly got killed because things were so chaotic in this house, full of, absolutely stinking, full of these poor babies. She got confused one day and nearly killed her own kid.
What?
This is me if I was running a baby farm. With my fucking ADHD, my brain is such an absolute shit show that I would be exactly the kind of baby farmer who'd be like, "Oh, fuck, that was my fucking kid! Why do I always do this?"
Oh, God.
But yeah.
As we're talking about this, next door's baby has just started crying. So if you can hear that on the record.
Mary Ann, that poor Polly, her kid, took a lot. She talked about her mother after she was arrested and said that after she was sectioned and let go from what at the time were insane asylums, which don't sound like places you go to get well, she would have bouts of violence. She threatened to kill Mary Ann, which is again sort of contributing towards the idea that she might have inherited schizophrenia from her mother. She attempted to kill her once, and she often had these delusions that Mary Ann or William were trying to murder her. Yeah, which is really scary and sad for everyone involved. But also...
Well, I'll be honest with you, I've got no fucking sympathy for her. I mean,
no,
she's murdering people's fucking kids. I'm sorry that you're having a bad time.
No, I mean for the kids. I don't mean for her.
Oh, the kids. Oh, yeah. But also, don't feel too bad for them, because as we know, one of them gets very involved.
Yeah, that is true. Well,
So
do you know
I
what
don't
I
feel
think
too
it's
bad.
like? You know when she's like, "You're trying to murder me," to the kids. You know when you go out with a boyfriend who's always like jealous, and then you find out that they were cheating on you the whole time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Always the way, that, isn't it? that is the biggest red flag of all time, that, isn't it? Somebody going, "Oh, where are you going? What are you doing? You're cheating on me. Who's that? Who's this?" And it's quite clear that they're the one.
Yeah. If you're listening to this, let this be your moment of divine inspiration. That guy that you're with, and it will be a guy, that guy that you're with who's very jealous and very sort of like, "Well, I don't like that guy. Because he fancies you or because you flirt with him. He's cheating on you." Just so
Yes,
you know.
he is. And he doesn't
Merry
love you as
Christmas.
much as he loves himself.
No, he can't. He's incapable of it.
Get
Move on.
rid of him.
Be happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
We should clip this up as the clip that goes out on social media. Get it out there.
So she's in and out of these asylums. In 1893, she was discharged from a final spell in Somerset and Bath Lunatic Asylum, which I imagine, it sounds a horrible place, but in a lovely setting.
Yeah. And is it not sort of faintly amusing that people, because she used to hear voices and all sorts, that in asylums, I imagine they stink, I imagine they're cold, I imagine they're scary. But isn't it a bit more adorable if everyone's talking like that when they're in there? Yeah, it's quite cute, innit? Oh my God, I think I saw someone that wasn't there. Oh, I swear to God, I'm hearing voices, so I am.
It is a lovely part of the country, Somerset, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Very, very nice. She decides, does what anyone in her position would do. She moves to Reading, which is fine.
I've had two lovely tour dates there, but a proximity to London means that she changes her method slightly. So she decides she's going to do what everyone else in London and surrounding areas is doing at the time, which is drop it in the Thames.
Oh, God, that river.
Yeah.
The shit that's in that river. Fuck me. I cannot cope with it. It must have been horrendous. I mean, the episode after this one, which is your Halloween episode, please, you will hear more about the River Thames in that, and fuck me. What an absolute river of shit that must have been.
Yeah.
She gets an accomplice, though, in Reading. A woman called Jane Smith, Granny Smith, who helps her. She calls her mother, so she's like, oh, yes, here you go, mother. So it's as if it's a mother-daughter operation, which made it easier for women to hand their children over, because they obviously go, oh, well, they obviously care because they're mother and daughter. Why wouldn't they care?
Do you want to hear something really dark that we might have to cut?
Yeah.
I might have told you it before. So my mother, when I was in school, so from the ages of 4 onwards, used to work in old people's homes, wiping asses, as she eloquently put it. And she saw lots of... My mother has a living will, which means that, like, if anything happens, switch the machine off, which I don't think is legally standing, but she still put it in writing. But my mother is anti-euthanasia because she worked in mental health services as well, and saw people get pressure from their families, and the same with elderly people as well. Yes. Pressure from their families to sort of not be around as long as they would have been naturally. So she's like, no, there's too many sort of vulnerable people that could be exploited by it. And my mum's quite sort of, you'd think she'd be very pro that, but no, not at all. So she once told me about this woman who worked in an old people's home that she worked in, and there was like this older woman there who had quite a lot of money, and she had a daughter who wouldn't come very often, which is not unusual. And then this member of staff there started calling her mum and spending loads of time with her, but in quite like a cynical way. And then we're sort of like, oh, she's given me this, and oh, you don't have to do that, and she basically got her to rewrite her will. Yeah, and so she was calling her mum and giving this woman, this sort of like emotional connection that she obviously craved, and and sort of pressurized her, or suggested that she change her will.
Sinister.
It's really dark, and I bet that's more common than you think.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I'm like about older people. I've got a real sort of thing about how we don't look after older people well enough in this country, I don't think.
No.
And I think that kind of thing is probably more common than you'd think. I actually think if you do work in a home like that, and I know people can do what they want with their money, I don't think you should be allowed to be a beneficiary of a client's will.
Yeah, I agree.
Really?
I totally agree.
It's
also,
very sinister.
My mum was like, I remember her coming home once, and she maybe in the 2 times that she worked there, because she worked there for a long time, because when they got rid of the farm, she kept working there. Twice she came home and was like, someone's hitting them. And she could tell, like, the demeanour of they start flinching. And old people do bruise easily and all the time, so it's quite hard to find if someone is hitting them.
I just think it's horrendous. I think, I do have such a big thing about older people, and I think, like, it's a mark of a civilised society how you treat You're very young and you're very old.
Yeah.
And I think we're fucking piss poor at both, to be quite honest with you.
I mean, look how
especially
expensive
older
we've made
people.
it as well to take care of people well. And the fact that we've outsourced those, you're right, very young care and very old care to, like, businesses who pay their staff shit. And, like, anyone who runs a nursing home or runs a nursery, they're going on holiday 8 times a year, but the fucking staff aren't. And the level of care that, you know, they're just profit machines. This is why stuff like anything social care should be kept within a government.
Absolutely. Wholeheartedly agree. It makes me very worried for people. I mean, I just thank God that my grandparents didn't have to go into homes because, you know, there was enough, I say enough family. There was me, my mum and my auntie who did, and my sister who helped out. Some family members you don't see hide nor hair of.
Until
let's
they're
not go into that. Well, until they think there's something for them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's like, there's no fucking money, mate. You can go now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that would happen all the time as well, that someone would suddenly get very, like, sharply decline and suddenly the family would come around and be like, oh, and do you remember I always used to play with that lovely bureau of yours from 1814 that I always loved that and it always made me think of you. What's happening with that?
You fucking ghouls. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Yeah. You should be ashamed. But we've got a murder. A murder happens. Another murder. Doris Marmon.
Yes.
So in January 1896, a woman called Evelina, lovely name, who is from Evelina, she's barmaid, very popular, 25-year-old barmaid from Cheltenham. She gives birth to a daughter called Doris. And Doris is an illegitimate child. I hate that term, but that's why she's in this situation. Now, she puts an advert in the Bristol Times and Mirror, and the advert says, wanted respectable woman to take a young child. So what she wanted to do was she intended to work long enough to get enough money so she would be able to provide a better life for the child, and as soon as she'd got enough money behind her and a better place to live, she was going to go and reclaim Doris. Now, the advert goes out. So when it goes out, there is an advert that says, married couple with no family, want to adopt healthy child, nice country home, terms £10, sadly childless couple, dearly fond of children, good home, providing a mother's love. So, obviously, Evelina thinks, perfect, marvellous. Now, she writes to them, they write back, and of course, Amelia's like, great, this is perfect. So when she goes to meet Evelina to collect little Doris from the station in Cheltenham, she's quite shocked because what she's expecting is, you know, of course, an older couple, but when Amelia turns up, she's a very elderly, stocky woman, and she wasn't expecting that for some reason. I don't know why that's.
They never imagine us fat. That's what it is. You never imagine someone you think is nice is also going to be fat, because obviously fat is a moral state. Do you know what? Amelia really charmed her over these letters. So Evelina wrote back to her and said, please don't let anyone take that space until we've met and we've spoken. Because Amelia wrote to her and said, I just want to be a mother and I've got so much love to give. Also, we live opposite orchards. And Evelina was like, well, I just want you to have her for, a couple of months, maybe a year. I'll pay weekly. And Amelia was like, you know what? That's not the right thing for the child. You need to do this one-off payment, and then we'll look after, Doris forever, and we won't mess her around, and, otherwise it's going to be too distressing for the child. So she pushed it all through the idea of what was best for little baby Doris. Which is dark.
Don't like it. Horrible, horrible. Evelina, after she'd got over the shock of the stocky nature of Amelia, she hands Doris over with £10 and a box of Doris's clothes. Now, Evelina obviously loved Doris, and she bought lots of nice items of clothing, didn't she? She spent quite a lot of money making sure that the little child had the nice things that she could afford.
Yeah, it was in the box was nappies, petticoats, nightgowns, a powder box, shoes. And normally they didn't come with this much equipment. And also, Evelina felt very reassured because Amelia turned up and had a shawl. She was like, I'm so worried that it's going to be cold on the train that I brought this shawl so we can wrap her up warm. So Evelina was like, you know what, this woman clearly cares about my child as much as I do. Mm-hmm. So she takes this... Amelia takes the baby and the box and gives her a signed receipt for both, and then heads back. Mrs. Harding.
Evelyn doesn't want them to go, so instead of just handing the baby over, she actually goes with them to the station as well.
Yeah,
because she's like, I really don't want them to take my child, but this is the situation I'm in. Apparently, Evelina returned to her lodgings a broken woman, and she was absolutely heartbroken at having to hand over Doris. Now, a few days later, she gets a letter from Amelia saying that all was well. Mm-hmm. She writes back, Evelina, and she gets no reply.
Yeah, she writes back the same day, and she never hears anything again.
Now, of course, Amelia Dyer didn't go to Reading. She didn't go to this place with the orchards, because it didn't exist. She went to 76 Mayo Road in Willesden, in London, where her daughter Polly was living. Now, Polly was 23 years old at this point, and they bring little Doris to the house, and they get the white dressmaking tape, and they strangled her. Now, it's just so horrible. Amelia actually said about when she did strangle the children, she said that she used to like to watch them with the tape around the neck, as it was all soon over with them. Polly and Amelia wrapped the body in a napkin. I'm not sure what that means. I just imagine one from Nando's, and it can't have been that small. They kept... Also, I know this is inappropriate to mention this now, but the napkins at Nando's aren't as funny as they think they are.
No, Rachel. No, you're not doing this.
They're not as funny as they think they are. That's all I'm going to say. Find it annoying. They are very much the Ryan Reynolds of the napkin world.
Oh, back off him.
No, I used to be a big fan of Ryan Reynolds, and now he just makes me cringe.
Okay, so... Can I tell you what I think about Ryan Reynolds? Because he's new to my life. I started watching that brilliant Wrexham documentary, which I love. So I've done it the other way around. I then went and watched the Deadpools, and I was like, why does everyone go on about how fit Ryan Reynolds is? Because I think he's fine. And then he has got, for an attractive person, really good comedy timing. No. Because mostly they're like, look at Tom Hardy, like they don't know what to do with comedy. It's deeply embarrassing. So I'm quite charmed by him because he's new to me, and I think he is funny for a fit person.
Well, strap in, give it a couple of years, it'll wear off. I used to absolutely love Ryan Reynolds, love him, watched every single film he was in, even rom-coms, and now I'm just like, what? Deadpool is one of the most embarrassing films I've ever fucking seen in my life. But that's the story for another day. I fucking hate it. It's so deep. Like, I could feel my stomach clenching up when I watched it. I was like, this is so embarrassing. I can't believe that people think this is funny. But what happens is they wrap the baby in what they call a napkin. This is horrible as well. They decide to keep some of the nice clothes that Doris arrived with.
Yeah.
They even give the boots as a gift to the landlady of the house. And they send the rest of the clothes that they don't want to a pawnbroker.
Fucking horrible.
But it's a busy week for them, because they do the same the next day with a little baby called Harry Simmons.
Yeah, April 1st, 1896, Harry arrives. So this is really sad. They'd use the dressmaker's tape to murder Doris. And then she goes to go and do Harry, and is like, I've run out. So she undoes the tape from around Doris's neck and uses it on Harry.
What a horror.
Puts both of them in a carpet bag with 2 bricks in, and then throws them into the Thames.
Do you think it's mad that must have been a heavy bag?
Yeah.
Right? She goes back to Reading, and this is where she goes to a place called Cavesham Lock, and she pushes the bag through the railings, hoping it will go into the Thames. So she's taking this bag quite a distance.
Yeah.
Which is, she must have been struggling with it.
No, mate, she's stocky. We've already she's that's why she's so hench. She wasn't fat. She's fucking ripped, mate. Well, from carrying around carpet bags full of bricks.
I was going to say, though, I imagine that, back in those times, it was like, oh, there's an older woman struggling with a big bag. I guarantee somebody would have helped her carry that bag at some point.
That's true. That's true. How do you feel when people offer to carry your bags?
No fucker does it. I told you, I'm a woman under average height. I mean, who's, invisible to the world. No one ever offers. The amount of times I've struggled with stuff and people have just looked at me. Even, like, I've been in a situation where I do actually think someone should have offered to say, can I help you with that? Nobody does it. Never happens to me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm invisible. I don't know if I've died 5 years ago and haven't realised yet. People never offer. They never offer. Does it happen to you?
Yeah, I get.
I don't know what it is. Just nobody.
I think it's your thunderous demeanour. People are like, no, I'm just going to get... She'll knock me out if I offer.
It could be that. But also, I do sometimes think, when I've got a massive suitcase, and like in Edinburgh, when I'm trying to drag it up some stairs, like in the train station, and there's like people looking at me, I think, this suitcase is nearly as big as me. You can see it's heavy. You could offer, but you know what's going to happen now. Someone's going to say, actually, they might not offer because they might have back problems or something, because everything's a fucking excuse now, isn't it? You can't. You just say something now, and then someone's got a fucking devil's advocate for everything now, and it's like, oh, bore off. Sometimes people are just cunts. 30th of March, 1896, a bargeman along the Thames found a package, and he found it very easily. And in the package was a baby girl, Helena Fry. Ugh. It's grim, innit? So there was a special detective force. She was found near Reading. There's a special detective force, a very small one, for Reading Borough Police. And it was Detective Constable Anderson.
She's wrapped up in brown paper packaging, which is nearly Julie Andrews' song, but it's too sad. Yeah. It had Amelia's address on it.
Yeah. He does some really good detective work because he finds a label in the package, and in it, it had something on it that said Temple Mead Station, and he used microscopic analysis of the paper that the package was in, and he deciphered the name Mrs. Thomas and an address. So this led the police to Amelia Dyer, which is pretty good, isn't it?
Really, really good.
Especially for those times.
So basically they did a sting operation where they sent a woman along to sort of, figure out if she was offering the service and what it looked like inside. And then she's like, great, I'll come tomorrow with the baby. And then they knock on the door the next day. It's the police force. Amelia opens it thinking it's this woman with the baby. And she confesses almost immediately. So this is April 4th, 1896. So she said, this is awful. At this point, they had found the bodies of 7 babies who'd been strangled, and they'd all been found in the Thames, and they all had this white tape around their neck. So they arrest her and start questioning her, and she confesses pretty quickly and says, yeah, you'll know all mine, they've got tape around their necks.
Fucking hell.
Yeah, and she was in Reading Police Station, and she'd made 2 attempts at her own life while she was there.
Fuck me. Wow.
So it went on trial at the Old Bailey in 1896. It's the 21st of May, so they do move incredibly quickly on that, considering she's arrested on April the 4th of that same year. It lasts 2 days. Now, the defence went, OK, we're going to try and say that she's insane. But the jury were like, nah, you can absolutely go and fuck yourselves. So they go away for 5 minutes.
Was that the official statement?
They go away for 5 minutes. They find her guilty. Now, they do say, well, we think she might have been insane, but also, we don't care because what she did was so awful. Well,
at least they're honest.
Yeah, and so that it was oversaw by Mr. Justice Hawkins, who sentenced her to
Isn't
death.
he the lead singer of The Darkness?
I think it actually really is. So she was sentenced to death, and while she was waiting for her execution, they gave her some exercise books and a pen and pencil, sorry. She says, I'm going to write my last true and only confession of everything she did.
Okay.
And she filled 5 exercise books.
What?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So she was set an execution date that was basically 3 weeks after she was sentenced, and she didn't even try and appeal to it. She was like, yeah, fine, this is what it is. So the chaplain came to her and said, right, do you need to confess anything? And she gave him those exercise books and went, isn't this enough? So it's not a woman desperate for redemption.
No.
So she was hanged on the 10th of June 1896 by James Billington at Newgate, and she was the oldest woman to be executed since 1843, so like basically in about 50 years. And they don't actually know how many babies she killed, because yes, they had those exercise books, but there were so many children coming through her baby farm that she couldn't have possibly kept her, if she didn't keep a contemporaneous record, then they don't think her memory would have been good enough to remember it. And she had been doing it for up to 20 years when she was executed, so it's a very long time. But the business doesn't stop, does it?
Oh God.
Because
no, she doesn't.
Her daughter carries on, yeah.
Oh, fuck me.
Marianne
Seriously.
keeps on, yeah. I mean, she sort of claims I'm not murdering anyone, you know, just a common garden baby.
Yeah, but I mean,
farmer.
it's kind of not the it's not the family business that you want to carry on, is it? Like, you know, you've kind of got to stop after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't be disgraced like that and then carry on.
Well, her daughter, Polly, Marianne, gave lots of sort of full-on graphic evidence that helped her be convicted. And then, you know... But I think that they must have done some deal, because it's mad that she didn't get prosecuted. So they think that she was like... They were like, just squeal, pig, and we won't put you on trial. So... This obviously was massively controversial. It was a huge high-profile case. It led to all these laws coming in that made adoption much harder and just made everything a lot stricter. And the police were given greater powers to get rid of these baby farms. And they now checked personal ads in newspapers. Because before you couldn't just go, can I have a baby, please? Or we'll take your baby. They now sort of like, those were monitored. You could put them out, but they were monitored. So they would sort of like follow the progress of it. Now...
Interesting.
Okay, this is really dark. So, Amelia Dyer was executed, and 2 years later, railway workers were basically at Newton Abbot, sort of inspecting the carriages. And this is a carriage that had come up from Plymouth. They found this parcel inside, tied up with string. Open it, and there's a 3-week-old girl who's still alive in the parcel. She's obviously freezing, she's soaking, but she's alive. Now, she was the daughter of someone called Jane Hill, not the brilliant
and that
comedian.
baby was me.
What a reveal. Not the brilliant comedian Jane Hill, another woman. So she was a widow, and that's why she was like, I can't afford to look after this baby. So she messaged this woman called Mrs. Stewart that she'd heard about, and she gave her £12. And Mrs. Stewart was like, I'm going to adopt her, I'm going to look after her like she's my own. She said... that Mrs. Stewart had written to her and says, this little one would have a good home and a parent's love and care. So she was sort of acting like an adoption agency. And then she picked up the baby at Plymouth and then just dumped her on the next train.
You horrible sod.
Yes, and it was Amelia Dyer's daughter, Polly. That's who Mrs. Stewart was. So they think it just carried on.
And what happened? Any comeuppance for that? Any, anything?
I can't find anything about it.
Fucking hell. How cold have you got to be to do that?
Yeah.
That is cold, innit? A 3-week-old baby, and you wrap it up, and you say, I'm going to take care of it, and you leave it there. You horrible sod.
Yeah, it's really, really fucking horrible.
It's grim. It's really grim. Ugh.
Well, there you go. There's Amelia Dyer.
Horrible state of affairs for the women involved, for the babies, for the people that found these horrible packages.
Yeah. Not ideal.
No. Spare a thought for the River Thames.
God, the Thames has seen some fucking shit, hasn't it?
Ugh.
If those waves could speak. Good God.
Oh, no, thank Christ they can't. They probably just scream. The screaming river.
So that's Amelia Dyer.
It is, yeah.
We've got another episode coming out for you, a Halloween episode. So you'll be getting a little bonus one because it's our birthday. And also, I would politely remind you that if you're not part of the mailing list, you can sign up on our merch page, and I think you can sign up on the Facebook page. There's a button at the top.
And also I think on Twitter as well, the link is at the top there.
Yes, it is. So sign up, because we basically, if you enjoy Christmas or Killa no Filla, then there's going to be a few bits of lovely information for you in that mail out.
But if you're interested in,
it's going out to the mail out first, and it's a tiny venue. No spoilers though. No spoilers.
Yes.
So get in there quick.
No spoilers, but yeah, we've gone for intimate.
Yeah. 20th December, no spoilers. No spoilers.
No spoilers.
Thanks so much for listening, and thanks to everyone who's coming to see me on tour. I really appreciate that. Still fucking going, guys. Unbelievably, I'm still touring. It's ridiculous. The ones to mention, probably, it won't come out in time for the ones this week. Oh, I've just moved my Dublin date. We can't make that happen anymore, so I'm going to Cork. So I've got very little time to sell this venue in Cork on the 12th of November. I would love to see you there. Belfast is doing really well. Brighton is on its way to selling out, and so is the big date in London, and so is the Norwich Playhouse. So please book those quick.
Marvellous. I've got a new podcast coming out on the 31st of October. You'll hear more about that in the next episode. I also will be announcing a tour very soon.
Exciting.
That will happen.
Great.
I haven't got any dates yet.
Love it.
I'm just bogged down with baby farming now. Just feel
bogged down with baby farming.
I'm bogged down with baby farming. That's my country album.
And we're going to work on doing a massive Christmas special for you. It'll probably be 6 episodes. It might even be more, but it's going to be
bloody
huge.
Hell.
Yes, so we will pre-record that probably over December, and then have it all drop on Christmas. And then you won't hear fucking hiding a hair of us for months, because we'll need to mentally recover because of what we're talking about.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening. Don't bring your dog in. Bye.
Don't bring your dog.